Hello, good afternoon, and soon to be evening for some of us Latinistas. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Leanne Alfaro. I am creator of Moneda Moves, and I'm so thankful you were able to bear with us while we work through some technical difficulties on the back end here. But we have an awesome panel for you all today, and so I wanted to go ahead and introduce you to some of the people that you see here on camera. You'll see Yahaira Jacquez. She is founder of the Pinole Project. She's also a reporter and producer. You will also see Marivette Navarette. She is the founder of the Mujerista, which is the digital platform for mujeres to celebrate our culture and everything that mujeres in Latinas stand for. And you'll also find Danielle Leroux, who is the founder of First Gen Money, who's guiding us through our first encounters with personal finance, navigating it, saving, investing, all of that good stuff to start building generational wealth. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today.
Yes, excited to be here.
So happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I have you guys joining from all around the country. Marivette, you're in Miami. Yahaira, you're in New York. And Danielle, I want to say you're in New Jersey, or unless you've moved back to New York. Okay, awesome. So it's awesome to have you all here. Obviously, I feel like it'll be interesting to talk a little bit more about your passion hustles, entrepreneurship, how you balanced working for some of you, working full time while also building this out. And also when you decided, Marivette, that it was time to jump off that ledge and go full on entrepreneurship, which I so very much admire. And I myself, as somebody right now who's like working a full-time corporate job, but also trying to build a platform, it's definitely an exciting time to do it because we have first of all like some privilege, right? We're speaking from a place to be able to carry this out at home, but also just what are some of those challenges that you run into and some of the opportunities in the digital space right now. So let's start by getting to know all of you a little bit better. I'd like to start with you, Yahaira. Can you start by telling us a little bit more about your venture and why you decided to start doing what you're doing?
So my name is... I'm getting a little bit of feedback, sorry. My name is Yahaira Jacquez, and I'm the founder of the Pinole Project. And we're a Mexican-American food company, and we just came out with our first product this month, which has been amazing because it's been a year and a half in the making, and it's called Pinole Chia Oatmeal. And for those of you who don't know what pinole is, it's a ground corn that has been used for centuries across Latin America. It's been eaten for centuries across Latin America. And it's one of the things that I grew up eating with my grandparents and with my parents. And so I hold it very dear to my heart. And so I've been on this entrepreneurship journey for, about a year and a half now. And it's been very exciting, learning so much about, what I enjoy doing in this role, and also learning so much about marketing and our audience and targeting those people. So it's been a great journey. And I would say my impetus to start this business was, first of all, wanting to create a product that embodied my culture, my Mexican-American culture, which I'm so proud to have, and to be able to tell the story of my grandparents through this food, and also the stories of other Mexican-Americans or just Latinos in general, and our culture through this company. And so that is kind of like my driving mission in all of this. And to this day, whenever I run into any problems, I remember that, because that's the only thing that will really keep me going, is keeping that mission in mind, because it's not easy, but it's a fun ride. It's been a fun ride.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And so if anyone wants to check out the Pinole Project, we actually just wrote about it for the Mujerista, which is Marivette's site. And by we, I mean myself. I come from a journalism background, but I want to share the screen. It seems like we're limited to 4 video sources at the moment, but I encourage you to go check out Yahaira's work in that link in the chat, thepinoleproject.com. You can tell, like I've said to you before, Yahaira, that it comes from a place of love, a place of care, and you really care about telling the story behind it, which I think makes the story that much powerful. So on that note, Marivette, I'd love to learn a little bit more about what the impetus was to get started with the Mujerista, which is a digital content site. I feel like the first time I heard about the Mujerista, you were selling these shirts that said Mujerista on them, and I was like, oh, these are so cool! Like, I want one. And then I started seeing content come out from your website, and the quality of the content I was super impressed by. And so to be able to write for you, as I have other networks, it was really empowering. But tell me a little bit more about why the Mujerista, why digital content, and did you come from the world of content?
So first, I want to say thank you for having us. And also, I did share the link to the story that Leanne wrote on the Pinole Project and Yahaira on the chat. So feel free to check it out there. And it's great to meet you in person. Well, sort of, Yahaira. But yeah, so the Mujerista started in 2018. In January 2018 is when we launched. During the fall of 2017, that's when the wheels kind of started turning, and it all stemmed from the 2016 presidential elections. I thought that the Latinx community was not being represented in mainstream media, and that the rhetoric surrounding our community was just so negative and stereotypical. And I wanted to find places where the conversation was different, where the conversation was written by us, and it was about us and for us. And there were only a handful of digital spaces like this, and many that I came across were predominantly about like gossip, farandula, fashion, and entertainment. Which, you know, it's great, but there's just so much more to our community, and there's so many issues that are impacting our community today as well. And you're not seeing it. It seemed as if there was just no issues impacting us, and so that's where the idea stemmed from. And I had, prior to the Mujerista, I had done some social media content for different companies, and I, dabbled in blogging once upon a time. So I thought, let me just put it all together and create the Mujerista and see what comes from it. So it initially started as a little bit more of a passion project, and then just reaching out to other writers, creative writers, to see if they wanted to submit pieces. Sometimes I would write up a couple of pieces as well. And it started to grow rather quickly. And I think it just went to show you how much representation was needed in the media. And I was filling that void along with those that were collaborating with me. And it just kind of stemmed from there.
Now, what I think is interesting is that something that threads all of your kind of ventures together is that it's very personal. It's deeply personal, and you can tell when you talk about it. And Danielle, yours is very publicly personal. And so I think that takes a lot of courage to be able to teach through your own experiences, and to be very forward about just talking about money and money issues as they unravel. It's one thing to be able to process it and then say, okay, this is how I'm going to tell that story. And it's another thing to be able to document it in real time. And so that's what I think is really unique about your platform. Personal finance creation has exploded in the last year. I think in part due to the pandemic, right? So talk to us about why you decided to start First Gen Money, which was even before then.
Yeah, so I really started First Gen Money in 2017. And it started out as a personal blog, me just writing about what I spent on a weekend, and just talking about literally how I was spending my money, how I was thinking about what I was doing with my money. And then finally last year, in 2020, I decided, I'm like, this could be a business. I could actually start coaching and helping people, because I've already done this. I've already gotten rid of my debt. I know that is something that a lot of people are striving for. And so through my personal blog post, I decided, let's have a YouTube channel. Let's create more content. And started one-on-one coaching in 2020. And it really, it started as just me and my journey, because as probably all of you can relate, being a first-gen college student, but also first-gen entering corporate America. Very, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. And I was making some mistakes, and not anything terrible, but I realized that I can't be the only one who is confused about how to go about signing up for a 401k, or even thinking about investing in the long term. And now, quite frankly, like, how do I retire early and how do I reach financial independence? So that really, is what started First Gen Money, and then like made me want to help people one-on-one.
Yeah, no, I love the mission statement behind that. And as you said, you already had some stuff under your belt. You're like, okay, I know I'm able to overcome this debt. So what's next? So I'd love to talk to you about the in-between period, which for some of you is now. For me, it's definitely still now. And talk to me about the time when you were starting this, and you realized that it was more than just a blog. Yahaira, I don't know what your journey was like with the Pinole Project, actually, with the in-between spots. I feel like I've been kind of following as you go, but how in your head do you categorize this? Was it at first a passion project that then started to be a hustle, or was it very intentional, like, oh, I am going to set out to make this a very important part of my life? How did you kind of think of it, and how did you balance and prioritize this, what you were building, your kind of baby, with your main source of income, whatever it may have been?
Yeah,
I
I
would
would say
say
that
that
for
for
me, it
me,
was
it was
definitely in the
definitely in the
beginning
beginning
a
a
passion
passion
project.
project.
All
All
in,
in,
I want to
I
do
want to
this.
do
I
this.
want to
I want to
have,
have.
sorry, I'm
Sorry,
getting
I'm
some
getting some
feedback
feedback
again.
I'm going to
again.
mute myself. Could be me.
What was that?
I think I'm just going to mute myself so that when you talk, it doesn't bounce off my
Okay,
my computer.
thank you. I'm
Thank you.
sorry. So I think for me, it definitely was a passion project. I was all in on it in the beginning, but also, of course, balancing my day job as a journalist with this. So one of the reasons why it took so long, I would say, for me to launch this was because it was a year and a half in the making, because when you have a day job and when your priority is obviously your 9 to 5, uh, it's really difficult to do all the steps and do all the things that you need to do. So the process is sort of elongated for you, because it's, to build a brand, it takes so much time to build a product. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of ingredients that came to me from all these different companies that, we were trying to figure out, how do we make this taste delicious and also have all the nutritionals that everyone is looking for these days, the high protein, so it was so much time spent in the kitchen tweaking things, and it was all done at night after work. And I started doing this in 2019, so it was before the pandemic. And then I would say that under these times, it has allowed me a little bit more time to put into this project, because there was no going out, you're not commuting. And so my focus was on this and launching this, and that was all done on the weekend and at night. And from the beginning, I knew that this was something that I wanted to do, and I had like this vision for it, and it was the only thing that I had to do was to just keep on going. And it is difficult I have to say, to balance this, and especially now that we've launched our product and there are orders coming through, and we're trying to grow, and we're trying to figure out advertising and our marketing. And so all those things, they take time. And so you just have to be really organized when it comes to your time. So, I told you, Leanne, the other day, I've been waking up at 5 in the morning so I can get everything done for the Pinole Project in the morning, and then, be focused at work, not thinking about any of the business dealings. And then at night, I have my time for myself, because that's also a really important part, is that you can't overwork yourself, because it doesn't work out in the long term. So organizing your time and being very respectful of your day job and of the customers you're serving is just paramount, and has been, at the forefront for me in this journey, pre-launch and now.
So you mentioned yes, first agree with the snaps, Marivette, but you mentioned we. Who all is the Pinole Project, and how do you delegate tasks?
Yes. So I'm the founder, and my boyfriend, my partner, is the person that basically, so I do all the marketing, I'm the one doing all the Facebook ads, I'm the one doing all the Instagram posts, I'm the one at this point, trying to find an ad manager who can help me to do ads, because just want to say that, as you can own a business, but you have to find people who know more than you about a specific topic. You can't be the one running everything. And my boyfriend does all the logistics, which he's a logistics guy. Like he plans things to the 10th degree. So he's really good at that. But that's also a very complicated part of the business, because as you can imagine, there are so many moving parts. You have to take care of you have to make sure that the people who are making your product are making it quickly or not so quickly enough so that you're churning. And at the same time, you have to make sure that all the orders are going to different people. So that's how we sort of delegate the tasks between us. And I have to say that I would not be able to do this all alone. It takes a lot of work. And so having him, but also hiring people who are able to do jobs that I don't have the skills for is just really important when you're doing this. And if you really want to invest in your business, that's sometimes what it takes.
Yeah, I think it's so important to mention that, because I do think that there is a tendency of us, and when I say us, I'm not even sure who to bucket in that category. There's just so many of us in our generation, I would say, that we've stretched our jobs. Like, even when you look at the job market, because there were the generation that came right before us, went into jobs during a recession, right? And so jobs became more, there was more that was asked of you. I mean, I could say that as Latinas, we feel like we have to work X times as hard. I could also say that as first gen, we have to work X times as hard, for who is first gen in this room. There's so many variables, but just objectively speaking, also from the economy standpoint, we do tend to want to do more things, because that is usually what is asked of us. However, when you're an entrepreneur, it is a hard lesson, and it's honestly one that I'm still trying to work through. It's just like what to outsource, what to say, okay, someone's an expert in that, and that is something actually that I should delegate adequately. You said something interesting, though, about waking up at 5 a.m. to make time for everything, which reminded me of a plan that Danielle shared very publicly on her social media profile at some point last year. You did a challenge where you were trying to, I think, wake up at 5 or a certain time, or have a certain schedule to accomplish everything that you wanted to accomplish throughout the day. How did that work, and what would you recommend? What have been your findings since then in terms of prioritizing?
Yeah, so the first time I did this challenge was last March, and I continued it even when we went in lockdown. But I was able to, during this time, like focus on doing first gen money stuff and things related to first gen money in the morning, which meant that by the time I was done with work, I didn't have the mental capacity to think about how to be creative, like what kind of, script would sound better or whatever. And it was great. But I also recently tried that challenge and realized I can't do that right now because I sleep so late. So for me, it's been really important to just try to get as much sleep as I can, not try to overwork myself, because we know that it's so easy to burn out. It's so easy to just be so tired and feel like we're working all the time that we end up just not doing anything. And that's happened to me probably 2 weeks just this year, where I've just been okay, well, I'm very stressed out. I don't have the energy to do anything, so I don't do anything. But now thinking strategically about, hey, I know waking up early is what is recommended. People are writing about it, but what if maybe that's not what works for me right now in this, stage of my life where I'm working from home, I don't need to commute. I can maybe wake up 2 hours earlier than 9 o'clock when I need to be on. And that's fine because it gives me some time to do things. Whereas, we're not pressuring ourselves to fit some kind of schedule that might not make sense for us. And so I'm still trying to understand what that looks like for me. And I found that like waking up at 7 and going to bed at like 11:30 to 12 is fine. And I'm fine. I'm able to work out. I'm able to do the things that I want to do, but I'm not feeling like I'm not getting enough sleep that I need or enough quality time with my partner. So it's always a balance to try to understand what works for you, because we can read all the books about, morning routines of millionaires, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you.
You still have very much a corporate job while running First Gen Money. How do you set expectations with your full-time corporate job, and how do you also prioritize in the times outside of it? Especially now that we work from home, those areas can become a little bit blurred.
Yeah. For me, it's really important that I tell work, these are the hours that I'm working. And part of my job is hosting virtual events, which tend to happen after work hours. So, we have events that sometimes last till 7. And on those days, I have to tell myself, okay, those are the days that I have to commit to work. But the next day, I will start a little later, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, because I even it out. And so I've had that communication with my manager, and I've told her how important it is for me. And I haven't shared exactly what First Gen Money is. I mean, I don't hide it either, but I don't make it out there and say, I'm doing this on the side. So, this is why I need to be done with work at 5. But I am very clear about from 9 to 5 is when I work. Because if I don't, then it's easy for people to just not have boundaries and give you calls past the time that you're able to work. So I've been very clear with my manager about what works for me. I also am in the position where I've been at the same organization for 3 years. So I've kind of developed my just experience or kind of like we know Danielle's going to get it done attitude. So people know that that's who I am. And so I come with that leverage. I don't know if I'm starting a new company, how that conversation would go, but definitely speaking to my manager and realizing that, I'm going to have to work on First Gen Money on the weekends. So I do work Saturday and Sunday on First Gen Money, but I'm okay with that because I realize that I'm still spending time with the people that I love and doing the things that I enjoy, like going on walks with my dog and, doing all those things that are outside and not just behind a computer. But right now, this is the sacrifice that I have to make in order to potentially, make this my full time.
And I love that you explicitly said that. I mean, I think that there's like the unspoken part of the title of this panel, which is like, how do you plan to make your passion hustle your full-time hustle, right? And maybe that is the goal for some of us. For some of us, not. I know, Yahaira, you're still a diehard journalist day in and day out, and so you are a multifaceted, multi-hyphenate person, and you want to continue to be. That's fantastic. But for some of us, I think there is this kind of like aspiration, right, to say like, I could see myself growing into this, and I want to be able to step into that power completely. So, Marivette, you being as somebody who has taken this step and doing Mujerista full time, how do you manage your time currently? What are some of the boundaries you need to set for yourself, and what does that look like day in and day out? I'm going to mute myself.
No problem. So thank you. I recently went full time, and to get there, it was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of conversations taking place behind the scenes on whether it was doable or not. And I basically was using, I was working and saving a lot so that I can get to that point. And I then started working on finding a community director who sort of fell on my lap, and she's actually watching right here. So hi, Ashley. And she's also helped sort of organize, budgeting for the Mujerista, like where we can, put a little money here, put a little money there, and also take care of ourselves. And we started reaching out to different brands as well to sort of showcase, show who we are and see if they would want to work with us. And we use a little bit of that money to help pay for, whatever it is that we need to do. And so it was sort of I've been doing this for a few years. I kind of want to now take that next step to do it full time, just because there's just been so much activity surrounding it, and I wanted to devote more to it. And so I started budgeting and saving money so that I can get to that point for myself. And it's down the line, if it starts to get a little bit hectic again to where I need to go back to work and all that stuff, like that's still a possibility. I'm not trying, it won't be a failure. If you need to go back, I think that's something that we also need to stress, is that, sometimes you think it's possible and it turns out that it's not so much the case, and it's okay if you need to take a step back and reevaluate. It's been basically a lot of just saving, and then budgeting and seeing, okay, where do I want to be in 6 months? How much money would that take for me to get there? And making sure that whatever resources we're using that require us to put money into it, that we have enough for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, after speaking with a few entrepreneurs, especially those who are the first, they don't have they're not dealing with generational wealth, or that kind of particular kind of safety net to fall back on. That is something that you hear time and time again. Budgeting and saving money is so, so important, because you're building that safety net for yourself. No one else is building it for you. I did recently speak with an entrepreneur, Eliana Murillo, who some of you might know. She's a former Googler. She started the Latinx ERG at Google Hola, and she's also gone on to create Latinas Who Brunch. She made she co-founded a tequileria company with her parents, Tequila Alquimia, and she also has her own digital media agency. And she said that the number one thing that she'd learned in this entrepreneurship venture is she felt she needed to reframe the way that she thought about failure, for sure, because she said so many people, like Marivette was saying, see it as a failure to not do what it is you set out to do when you left your job initially. But when you go over the options, it's like, oh, well, what happens if things don't work out? Well, I just return to the job or a similar job with that skill set that I have. And honestly, like, the more you think about it, at least is the way I see it, like you realize you're just like, well, what's better? The fact that I tried and it didn't work, and so then now I can go back to a full-time job and try to pivot if I want? Would you rather sit around basically all life wondering what if I would have done this, or actually go and do it, like build that life for yourself? And yes, it requires some sacrifice, like Danielle said, maybe budgeting a little bit, but it seems like something well worthwhile.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Leanne, just because it was a conversation I was having internally at the time on, whether or not, is this going to fail? And if I do fail, like, how am I going to feel? How are people going to perceive me? And I think getting yourself out of that mentality is very crucial, especially when you're becoming an entrepreneur, because there are so many things that happen that you don't plan for. For example, a global pandemic. And for those that are launching a business during this time, I can't even imagine the hardships that you're feeling from the supply chains being overrun, or things not getting here on time, or to just your mental health, because being an entrepreneur, it does mess with your mental health as well. And so you have to sort of continuously remind yourself what your mission is, and that's what I continue to do to this day. On those days where I'm feeling down, or where I am unsure, or where I'm having hesitations, I have to remind myself, I set out to do this for this reason. This is my mission. This is how I want to support our community. And as soon as I start reminding myself of that, that spark starts igniting again. You just have to mentally have those conversations with yourself, and then talk to other entrepreneurs as well, because they know what you're going through more than anybody else. You can talk to your friends and family all you want, but it's a completely different understanding. They just think you have your own hours, or social media. Do you have to post that much? Do you have to create content? Like, it's not a big deal. And it's such a different conversation when you're talking to them from when you're talking to a circle or a group of entrepreneurs, because they truly understand the hardships that go into it, the highs and the lows, the roller coaster of emotions, and how just one small thing can mess with you for the rest of the day or week. So I would definitely recommend that, along with reminding yourself of your mission, is to find a group of peers that are on a similar journey as you are, and confide in them, share your experiences with them as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that kind of builds well onto the next question that I have for you all, which is about resources. Because sure, I think it's when you're in the position, you can give very like theoretical advice and also like mindset advice, but it's really hard sometimes to grasp when you're just getting started and you're just like, okay, but tactically, how do I do it? And this is something that I still deal with. I'm just like, okay, great. I can work, but it's just like strategy and also like resources. Like, what resources did you all find helpful as you grew your businesses? I think for the crowd we have today, it might be good to talk about digital resources in particular. Yahaira, there's like a whole other skill set that comes with distribution and everything that your partner is working on, I can imagine. But for digital specifically, were there any resources that you found useful to kind of build your social media strategy, to start actually making the product, and to also start building community?
Yeah, one of the main, I actually found a mentor pretty early on through a food ventures program, and I can find it and link it when I'm done talking. But basically, my mentor, her name is Allison Velasquez, and she started Skinny Souping, which is their a souping company, and they do direct to consumer, and they're in retail stores. And she has just been so helpful in guiding me on this journey when it comes to, figuring out the brand, the messaging during that phase. And then later on, obviously, when it came to different logistics issues. And so I would say, I did, look for digital resources online, but there's nothing like someone who has done it before you, and that's also like she's Latina as well. She's Mexican American, and I think there's just something in being able to talk to someone and being able to ask them about what you're worried about, or is this, to ask someone. Sometimes I didn't know if something was a problem, and like I said, these are like very kind of like minor details, but having someone that's done it before you and is able to be there and offer advice for specific questions. And obviously a mentor-mentee relationship is, it's something that you need to build, and you need to also offer some sort of value to that person too, and friendship. And we've actually become really good friends. But I think the number one tool for me to doing that was, fostering that via social media, and also making sure that, we had not weekly, but like bi-weekly chats where I'm able to like schedule 30 minutes and like ask what I needed to, because like I said, in the food business, there are just so many things that you can't really figure out online, that it's just too particular. So I would say finding a mentor, whether it's via one of these, if you're interested in a food program, I'll drop the link for this one, but finding someone through, whether it's LinkedIn or whatever method, has been huge for me, because I can read articles, but there are certain things that you just don't know because your situation may be very specific. So I don't know if I offered any value in that, but
Plenty. I mean, I think you should drop the link for the resource in any case, in case anyone's interested in food. I think mentorship is huge, and it's not always easy to find the right mentor or to even ask for mentorship, because it's kind of like an odd question to broach with someone. But I think you hit it on the nail when you talk about fostering a relationship. And I think that that's probably a little bit closer to how a mentorship is even formed. Now, Danielle, you're such a multi-hyphenate when it comes to your platform, because you're way more than just like a money coach. Like you're editing your YouTube videos now. And I don't know, you'll have to remind me what your output on the YouTube videos are, but it just takes as somebody who has it, like it takes so much time to edit. And then you're also doing social media, you're doing these really like interactive, really engaging posts, and then of course your stories, and then on top of that, the stuff we don't see behind the scenes. So talk to us about resources that you found really useful in that content creation.
Yeah, so I think something that I forget who showed this to me or taught me this kind of idea that you want to collaborate and not compete. And I think, as you mentioned, like the personal finance space has blown up in the past year, in the past 2 years. And so there's a lot more people kind of talking and sharing about their journeys on Instagram. But you have to look at those accounts and those individuals as people to collaborate with. And so for me, it was important to like reach out to a few women, and Latinas in particular, and see if we could have like a mastermind call. And we started having these discussions, and it became kind of a place where I could go if I had a random question about like something that I saw, or like how should we, approach this topic, having like somebody to sound it off with. Because, yes, our family isn't always going to understand the ins and outs of like what our online business is. And, they might not really understand that it is a business. My dad is still always telling my sister and I, you need to start a business. And I'm just like, oh my God, I do have a business. Please, you're insulting me. It's hurting me. But yeah, just finding a community of women and having like mastermind conversations, making an agenda every time you have a call of like things that you want to touch on, or issues that you're having. Through this mastermind, I actually was able to come across this course for online coaches with this YouTuber, and she actually offers it's like a how to get clients through Instagram, Bossgram Academy, that's what it's called. And it's so helpful to me because I have a YouTube channel, she has a YouTube channel, and she goes through the process of like how to create content so you can capture and get clients. And I wouldn't have come across her content or just the program that she was offering unless somebody told me about it. And that has been one of the most helpful courses that I've taken to date. And just being willing to just ask questions and reach out to your community. I think something that I started early on was the Latinas Get Money Slack. And, we all, like, it's just women who are interested in talking about money, but we've all been able to help each other in one way or another. And, that's how I've heard about different scholarship opportunities for, now I'm in a CFP course, so I'm also taking classes, and I was able to like find out how to go about, where to find a job after I finish my CFP course. So it's just, online is an insane place. I feel like I have more friends online than in real life, but they're becoming friends, right? Like these are people who I'm like so excited to see after, the pandemic is over and we can start traveling again, because they become your community.
Is it untoggled? It's untoggled. Okay. It's awesome that you bring that up, like the community, the potential for community online, because it's really great. Obviously, there have been so many side effects of social media that aren't as positive, but to be able to foster that community because you're a leader in this space is really, really cool. Yasmin posted a question in the chat, which I think is a really good question, and it's about competition. Sometimes when people talk about Latinos, unfortunately, they tend to self diagnose as like crabs in a bucket. which I think would be something maybe to what we alluded to here. But the fact like we're scared of each other because we perceive each other as competition, because there's and maybe part of that is because maybe there's a perception that there's only so many seats at the table. Regardless of, because I don't believe that that's true here, but if that perception, if you come across that perception, and this can go, Danielle, for you or for anyone in this room, how have you kind of navigated somebody who perceives you as competition? Do you continue to try to foster a relationship with them, or how do you navigate that situation?
Yeah, I have never encountered that. I've never encountered somebody perceiving me as competition, or not to my knowledge, at least. Maybe, but nobody's ever outwardly like made me feel that way. What I would do, I think I would continue to like foster the relationship as best I can. I also want to like just let everybody know, in any relationship that you're trying to have or like foster, you have to make sure that it's an equal like give and take, right? You don't want to be the only one like giving and wanting to give, and then you're not receiving anything, because then you grow to be resentful. So that's something to keep in mind if, somebody views you as competition. But if you don't view them as competition, then if you have the opportunity to invite them to maybe, I don't know, I do a lot of IG lives. So like if you want to invite them to one of your IG lives to, introduce your community to this individual, I think that's a great way for somebody to be like, oh, okay, like she's allowing me to take space in her community. So yeah, I think it's always kind of inviting them to your space, and always being mindful about like the give and the take.
I agree with what Danielle just said. I think I was also very lucky that I never really faced anybody, or again, not to my knowledge, as Danielle said, anyone that believed that I was a competition, or vice versa. I never try to look at people as competition. I think it is important, as Danielle said, that we invite someone who might perceive us as competition onto our community, because I think that helps sort of break and dispel all of that mentality. We need to, in order for more Latinas or more people from our community to progress and move forward, we need to bring each other up. And so we need to stop looking at one another as competition, or thinking that this person might see me as competition, because most likely it's not the case. And most likely many of us are just trying to help the next generation. At least I know that that's how I'm working. And I think many of the girls on this panel as well. I think we want to see our community flourish and aspire for greatness. And so in order for us to do that, we need to bring each other up, and not look at each other as the competition, as the enemy. And honestly, the many people that I have contacted in order, to ask for support, for help, I would just email them or send them a DM. And most cases, they responded very positively and tried to connect me or help me out in whatever case in whatever way they can. So I think you need to sort of get out of that mentality and just try and ask for help, look for that mentor, see if anybody wants to help you. Because if they say no, then it's just a no. It's not a big deal. You move on with your life, you move on to the next one, and that's that. But if you don't ask, you'll never know. So you need to get out of that mentality, just go for it. And then don't forget to bring us with you. We need to bring each other up.
I think one of the biggest learnings that I've had, just in terms of that, it's just you can really get caught up in your own head and in perceptions sometimes, I think. And social media is also its own world, where I think everyone treads a little bit more carefully because of what has happened to certain people in the past. I don't know, TikTok, for example, such an amazing space. It does tend to have, for example, though, this kind of like reputation where everyone's just a little bit more, it's like a tinge more real, like people really don't bite their tongue. But at the end of the day, though, it's so worth it putting yourself out there to other people, because the potential for that connection is just so much greater, and to kind of curate your own a community of your own. So that's really, really awesome. I would love my last question to you all. It's kind of like a free for all, but what is something about like building a side hustle or entrepreneurship that you've learned that no one ever told you?
I'll start on this one. Something that no one ever told me, especially I think in this business, is that there's a lot of trial and error. And what works for someone else isn't always going to work for you. For example, now that we've launched the Pinole Project, and I want to obviously grow this business and get it in front of more people, and that involves advertising, email marketing, all these different things. And there are so many gurus out there that, say that they're gonna, they can convert your followers into, there are people saying all of these things out there. And yes, maybe one platform works really well for their product, or one ad strategy works really well for them or a specific person. And sometimes it's not going to work for you. And that is fine. But at the same time, there is some disappointment sometimes when it comes to that. And there's a lot of disappointment on this journey where you feel like you're doing your best to, have the right messaging, post all the right things, and you're thinking to yourself, well, why doesn't anyone pay attention? But what I would say to that is you just have to sort of zoom out and view this as a journey. Because for me, for example, I didn't learn my journalism chops overnight, and I think for a lot of us on this panel and in the audience, we didn't learn what we do right now for our day jobs easily. It took schooling, it took years of work. For me, thousands of reports that I've done in my 5-year career plus 4 years as a school journalist. So for me to think that overnight this is going to work and I'm going to be the entrepreneur I always dreamed of, it's not. It's going to take a lot of trial and error, a lot of messing up, and that's okay. And the way you get through that is by viewing it as a journey, and by viewing it as, this is your passion and you are guided by a mission. And if that's the case, then you're going to feel that energy throughout the process. So yesterday wasn't a good day, but today, it could be. So that's my only thing that for me, it's like, oh, I wish someone would have told me that. It's just hard.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned, Yahaira, that it's not an overnight success. I think that's a huge misconception about business, and you don't realize how many years it actually takes for you to maybe just break even. I believe it's like 3 to 4 years on average, but it may be more, it may be less for others. And it really does mess with you when you don't know that when you're starting off, because you're just thinking like, why isn't this working? Why aren't people purchasing? Why aren't people reading? Why aren't people clicking? And it's because it's a slow process, and it starts building and it starts happening. And you have to just kind of like keep that focus on why you started your business. And then let the jigsaw puzzles just sort of fall into place. I also want to say that it can get very lonely sometimes, which is why, as we all stated, it's very important that you find the right mentors and a community of peers that will have an understanding of the kind of journey that you're on. Because if not, it will be very lonely. Especially when you're going through a hardship or difficulties with your business, you really need to talk it out with somebody. It's great to have a fiance, a boyfriend, a partner, but having someone that really does understand having a business is a different level of don't know what the right word is right now, but it's just a very different level of what you need, of a relationship that you would need for being an entrepreneur. And then lastly, I just want to add, and this is something that I've slowly started incorporating back into my life now, is that you need to take a day for yourself, or just make sure you incorporate a lot of self-care in your journey. I wish I had done that starting off, but when you're starting off, you're so excited and you're pumped and you just want to get the stuff, get your things out and do all that you can in however many hours that you have in a day. But it's very important that you do either take a few hours out of your day to just step away from it all and, go on a walk, or on the weekend, just take a day where it's just you doing things that you truly enjoy, that it's not for the money, it's just something that you want to do that sort of takes a lot of the mental stresses out of it. So I think that's really, really important. I've been trying to incorporate that back into my life now. So I encourage you all to do it while you're starting off. It's just taking a couple of either breaks throughout the day, or just devoting a full day for yourself, and pre-plan all the social media stuff that you need to do. It's easy to do that now. You can just pre-plan it all, and then you go on the weekend and go on a bike ride and let it all just auto-publish or whatever.
Yeah, I think for me, it's two things that I wish I knew. It's, as a business owner, your business is like salesperson, right? So you need to be like constantly comfortable saying and offering your products and your services to people. And that's something that, for me, it was very like, oh, well, I feel bad charging. But the truth is, like, if you don't start making money, it's just a hobby, right? If you don't start making money being and working hard late nights or waking up early, it's just going to feel like, well, like, what is this for? So I think for me, it was that realization that I need to start coaching, and I need to be okay with sharing that I'm offering this service. Like, why am I shy to share that I'm charging people for coaching? Like, yeah, it costs money. So I think knowing that you are your only salesperson, at least in the beginning, and getting comfortable selling your product, selling your service. Another piece that I was thinking about earlier, and now I like totally forgot what I was going to say, but it was on, oh yes, okay. So busy versus productive. I think it's really important for people to realize that those two things are different, right? Like, you could be busy, just like working behind the computer all day, but like, what was the output of that, right? So like, sometimes now I like block out time because I need to say, in these 2 hours, I'm going to edit that YouTube video. And if I don't edit that YouTube video, what did I get distracted with? Because it's so easy for me to be editing my YouTube video and then go on YouTube and watch other people's YouTube videos. So there's a difference between like being productive and just like being busy.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a really, really good point. And as somebody who also edits, but in my case, podcasts, can definitely resonate with it. I feel with podcasts, it's not as easy to get distracted. I don't go and listen to other podcasts, but it's just, I tend to prolong the stress if there are unnecessary stressful breaks, basically. So time blocking has been very effective. I agree with that. Also, the Pomodoro Method for things that aren't that intensively like thinking, like set 45 minutes and then just go and run, and then take your break, allow yourself that break. And I don't know, some of my friends that are not doing something like that, they're just like, you time block your weekends? And I'm like, well, yes, because then I can have my own time, and then I don't need to worry about that being time that was like stolen from my moneda time. So I mean, yeah, that's how I'm getting started right now, but definitely a journey, and embracing the journey is a big part of it, as Yahaira said. Well, I see it's 6:00 on the dot. Is there anything I did not ask about that you all would like to share?
Nothing on my end. Thank you so much for inviting us here on this panel today.
Actually, Danielle, how can we get coached on money things if we want to? I shared your website a couple times, but what's the best way to get you as a money coach?
Yeah, just send me a DM and I'll send you the application for the coaching.
Awesome. Okay, so we have it all here. I mean, really, we have the press house, we have the money coach, we have the Pinole to power you through the thick and the thin. So everybody's here in the house. Connect with us. Feel free to ask any questions. And thanks so much to all of you incredible ladies for making time out of your day.
Thank you. This is amazing.
This is amazing.
I'm so inspired. Thank you all. Like, you've all inspired me. Thank you. You're all wonderful, doing amazing things. Congratulations, and pat yourselves on the back.
All right, and thanks everyone from the membership of Latinista. I'm sure more members will have more exciting stuff planned in the months to come. So just keep an eye out on the channels, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.